It's responses time here at the Kermode Uncut blog, and once again we've been overwhelmed not only by the quality but frankly the quantity of your responses. There's a number of threads running at the moment and hundreds of responses. Let's try and get through just a few of them. One of the threads running is, I did a blog about Steve Coogan playing Paul Raymond in The Look of Love, which is currently in cinemas. I said, whatever you think about the film, that piece of casting is brilliant. You think, yes, Steve Coogan works absolutely perfectly as Paul Raymond. So I said, what would your perfect castings be? Well, of course, since then, we've discovered in the news that the perfect casting to play Obama would be Daniel Day-Lewis.
Ohio! Hello, Ohio!
But here are some of your suggestions. This from Evil. Toby Jones in a biopic of Patrick Moore would be a sight to behold, though I fear he would feel he is getting typecast as bald eccentrics. This from Dan Moore, 1979. I think Mads Mikkelsen, for my money, one of the best actors working in cinema, along with Toby Jones, would be great in a film about Vladimir Putin. They're both handsome-looking men, but with an underlying creepy, almost alien quality. Of course, wherever you go at the moment, there are huge posters with Mads Mikkelsen's face on because he is currently starring in the TV series of Hannibal. Now, this from Dorival, this is just one of several similar suggestions. Tilda Swinton as David Bowie, or David Bowie, which one are we saying? I'm going to stick with Bowie. The film doesn't need to be about Bowie, but Swinton's Bowie could be like Jagger in performance, a crazed, washed-up pop star. I would pay good money to see a weird, surreal journey with a mix of Man Who Fell to Earth and Velvet Goldmine. Hell, even Bowie thinks Swinton looks like him. She appeared in his last music video. And as I said, several of you came up with that suggestion. It's really only a matter of time before Tilda Swinton actually plays David. This from Field It. I admit this is based on something Mel Brooks once said, but I would have loved to see David Lynch in a Jimmy Stewart biopic. I'm sure most of you know this, but Mel Brooks, who produced The Elephant Man for David Lynch, once described David Lynch famously as Jimmy Stewart from Mars. In fact, I'd pay to see David Lynch is Jimmy Stewart of Mars rather than John Carter. A couple of others on this thread. This from Will Chadwick. We've got one coming soon, which is Michael Douglas as Liberace in Soderbergh's Behind the Candelabra, which you think is bizarre, but when you see him, blimey. And finally, this from Westcliff Chris, for obvious reasons. Mark Kermode as Richard Nixon, or Jesse Birdsall, or Nick Faldo, or Patrick Swayze, that's a new one on me, or Michael Portillo, or my favourite, Richard Hawley. On to another thread now, the thorny subject of editing. I came back from the Belfast Film Festival, having done an on-stage with Brian Henry Martin, at which Brian had showed this YouTube clip of a Quentin Tarantino film reduced to just the swearing. This is a bit of a YouTube sensation. And I was asking, if you had the chance to re-edit any film, what would it be? Loads of suggestions. Here are just a few. This from Simon Goodman. The Tree of Life. No Sean Penn, no dinosaurs. Done. This from Vogon Poet. Eyes Wide Shut. Which bit? All of it, for the sake of the Kubrick canon. And this, from Blue Juicer, I'd edit the Star Wars prequels as follows. The Phantom Menace from 0 hours, 0 minutes and 1 second to Revenge of the Sith, 2 hours, 19 minutes and 59 seconds. That would tidy them up rather nicely. On to something perhaps a little more thoughtful. This from 292. I honestly think there is something decent in Titanic somewhere. For starters, I'd cut the first 30 minutes or so. They don't even take place on the boat. They're set in the modern day. I'm not interested. I'm with you on that. If the film were a lot smaller and more intimate, I think there is somewhere in there a good film. There is. It's called A Night to Remember. Here's a couple of suggestions for kids' films. This from Trevor. I'd cut out the stonkingly dull garden swing scene from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. Harsh, but perhaps fair. This also from G-Pop. I would edit out all the songs from The Sound of Music. I still wouldn't watch it, but it would be a better film not to watch. Actually, since they're both about a singing mother, children and Nazis, we could take out the songs and insert the ones from Bedknobs and Broomsticks. It'll be a better film. Of course, as Bedknobs and Broomsticks fans will know, that film has now been expanded to its original intact form. Just a few final suggestions on this theme. Honestly, I could read you responses to this for an hour or so, but I have to edit hard. This From Arthur Burke, I would edit The Deer Hunter down to a 20-minute public information film about the dangers of playing Russian roulette. This, from 10,000 Maniacs, let the right one in. A perfect film, except for the bit, and you all know what this is going to be, except for the bit with the cats. Suddenly, and just for a second or two, the film becomes a B-movie. Perhaps they didn't have much money, but why put in rubbish effects? Better to leave them out altogether. This has come up time and time again. I love Let the Right One In. It is true, the cat sequence is a misstep. There's just no two ways about it. This from Alex Delage. A film I would like to re-edit is Danny Boyle's Train Spotting. However, instead of cutting scenes out of this frankly perfect film, I would add in all of the deleted scenes. I don't care if it's too long. I just want to spend more time watching these characters go about their daily lives. And as I'm sure you've been reading in the press, it seems increasingly likely that you will get that chance because everyone is talking about the possibility of a Train Spotting sequel. Finally, this from Kirk. If someone were to gather all the existing footage from Caligula, remove all the stuff that made the film such a turkey, such as the random pornographic scenes, a good film, perhaps the film that Gore Vidal intended, would come out of it. Now, I'm not sure whether Kirk knows this, but 10, 15 years ago, over at Film 4, we did, in fact, do just that. We got the longest version of the film available, which is then the X-rated US version, and took out all the Guccione inserts to leave behind something that was nothing like a director's cut. It was nothing like the film that Gore Vidal originally intended, but it was at least closer to Tinto Brass's original version. Was it any good? Well, that's a matter of debate. Was it better than the X-rated version? Yes. Is there a good film in there somewhere still struggling to get out? I think so.